Well, howdy all you collector car fans out there. This is Jason, the owner and founder of Southern Bush Motorsports. Well, look at here. We finally got Southern Bush Motorsports t-shirts. Be able to order them on our site. You can order them from here. It'd be nice if you, instead of getting some, asking for some contributions with the Patreon page, thought we'd give people a t-shirt instead. So what this Tales from the Bush is about Canadians and their cars. So a lot of people don't know this, but cars back in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, you know, the popular ones, the 69 Charger and all that. We built those cars. Sometimes we put a different name on them, but we did build those cars. We had to have cars to drive around back then. But the Canadian government didn't allow these cars to be sent out because we were really under production. We weren't like the United States where they were pounding these cars out like crazy. But we had these cars. We had the rare cars. We had obviously that AR CUDA, and that AR CUDA is for the U.S., but that car was in Canada. These cars were, a lot of the U.S. cars, cool cars, were sent over from Canada. I mean, look at that bad boy. That was in Windsor, Ontario, I think. But yeah, we did have a lot of these cool cars, and six-pack Hemi cars, and the big block Camaros, and Chevelle SSs, and all that. We made all that stuff here. You know, you want a 454 cowl induction Chevelle SS, 1970, we made that stuff here. When I said made that stuff here, that means here in Canada, where I'm at right now. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You know, we had the Super Bs and all that stuff. We weren't allowed to export them. And, you know, when you see that Y07 code on a fender tag, that means it was made for Canada. Made for Canada means it was made in Canada. You know, that's a 70 Barracuda convertible. That car was made in I believe that was also made in the Windsor, Ontario plant. You know, it's not a six-pack or a Hemi car, but, you know, we did have those cars. But one of the important things to remember is all these numbers that you see online about there were 7 of this made and 14 of this made, none of that accounts for the Canadian-built cars. None of it. So they're all different numbers, and the problem is with the Canadian government, it wasn't a stipulation to keep track of this stuff. So a lot of these manufacturers didn't. We really don't know how many of these cars were made. That says 70 Charger RT right there. That was in, I think, Saskatchewan. And that was made in Canada. And you also got to remember back in the late 60s and 70s, there was a lot of oil money here in Canada. And, you know, people ordered cars from the United States and had them brought up. And we definitely had some cool cars running the streets. I mean, shoot, I remember my grandfather driving me around in a 350 Camaro. It was a first of the second-gen Camaro. Look at that Super B just sitting there. And, you know what that is right there. That's a 70 Hemi CUDA. That was sitting in New Brunswick, I believe that car was. That was a completely numbers matching car, totally untouched. Completely untouched car, just sitting there. And although it looks bad, up in the northern provinces of Canada, you can see it's actually a very solid car. Up in the northern provinces of Canada, once you hit past minus 12, salt is useless. It doesn't do anything for the road. So we use grit rock, sand, crushed lava rock from a volcano, I think, up in the northern part of Canada. The 71 CUDA convertible right there. So a lot of these cars in the northern part of Canada, which is where all the oil money was, are solid. Now check this car out. That is a 70 Hemi CUDA. Now, this guy preserved this car. It was a story I never even thought was true until I actually found out. This guy preserved this car in oil. That entire car is soaked in oil, motor oil. He didn't want the car to rust out. Here's the craziest thing. When he bought the car in 1971, he just drag raced it. You can see the tires on it. He just drag raced it. It's a real 70 Hemi CUDA. And when you see the interior picture, I'm going to tell you right now, look at the oil that's on the floor pans. There's probably an inch of oil on the floor pans. That right there is the original mileage on the car. You can see how the numbers are sitting straight, less than 2,000 original miles. All he did was drag race it. You just had a lot of money. Look at all the oil on the floor pans there. Isn't that crazy? He just put oil all over the inside of the car to preserve it. And you know what? As stupid as it sounds, it worked. This right here, 1970 Hemi GTX. I think this is up in Prince Edward Island. Kind of looks like a Hemi to me. Built in Canada car. 1970 Hemi GTX. That was built in Canada. Super solid and completely untouched. That car is completely untouched. That's the original paint on the car. Nothing's ever been done to it. A lot of people are going to be looking at these pictures and go, hey, I've seen these pictures before. Yes, these are not cars that I found. These are cars that I just wanted to put together so I could actually say these are Canadian cars. You know, you've got a 70 Cornet RT convertible. That is a real deal 70 440 RT convertible. You see that Y07? That car was built in Canada. So I'm telling you, everyone, we did have these really cool cars that we built in Canada. We weren't allowed to send them out. That's why a lot of people don't see them anymore. But that's a real Y07 car, 70 440 RT Dodge Cornet convertible. Super B's out the yin yang. That was a popular car up here because it was big. It held a lot of stuff in the trunk, and you know, people in Canada needed a big, heavy car, so we didn't slide off the road. That right there, that wing car. Now, we didn't build those in Canada. I don't think we did. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But it ended up here because that's a farmer's field up in, I think that was British Columbia. That car was found in British Columbia. And as for this one here, this was found in Calgary, Alberta. I believe this one was Calgary, Alberta. But again, you know, when you're looking at these pictures, no, these are not, for the once, these are not pictures that I actually took. These are just pictures of cars where I know that they were Canadian cars, so I can say that's a Canadian car. That Superbird's obviously not a Canadian car, but look at the snow on the ground. That's where it was. That was up in northern Alberta, I believe. You know, maybe it didn't sound very fair, but, you know, we were allowed to order cars from the United States and have them brought over, and a lot of cars did get sent over and brought to dealerships. We just weren't allowed to ship any cars out of Canada, as far as I understood, because we just weren't making enough of them. That right there is a 7340 Scat Pack Dart, Panther Pink, sitting in a field. Canadian-built car. I believe that one was made in the Oshawa plant in Oshawa, Ontario. Then you got a 71 Barracuda convertible, just a 318 car, not a big deal. Super solid, almost no rust. That was built in Canada. So we did build some crazy cool cars out here in Canada. We just kind of kept them to ourselves, you know, because we barely had enough cars to keep the Canadian people in driving mode. But you know, that's, like I said, you know, if you ever want to find a car and you're adventurous and you want to spend some time, a little bit of money, I'll tell you what, I could shake your head at the cars that are up here in Canada. Like, see right there, I think that's a 70 Cuda. You ever seen a vinyl top like that? 71 Cuda? I don't even think it was a big block car. But we just did weird stuff that we just normally didn't do. I mean, look at that. Have you ever seen a Cuda that looked like that? I'm not saying the stuff that we did was very good looking. I mean, I don't really find that very, very nice. But look at that whole bench seat, split buddy seat there. It's just, we just did some weird things. You know, this is a 71 six-pack Roadrunner that supposedly it was the only one that was ever done here. Who knows? But look at all these cars in the field. Super solid. You don't see rust on any of those cars. Of course, there was probably a little bit of rust, but, you know, most of the cars here were super solid. You know, 70, 383 Air Grabber Super B. You just kind of forget about the whole fact that most people didn't know that we actually made these cars out here. Like I said, we didn't make any of the super rare cars. I don't think we made any of the six-pack cars, too many of the six-pack cars or anything like that, but we definitely made some really cool cars that are just not registered in the book. It's another 70 Cornet RT convertible, 440. You know, and when you take a look at the car, it's a little beat up. And it's got some rust issues. That car was probably down in lower Canada. But, you know, the thing's just sitting out in the field. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy, some of the stuff that's out here. And the craziest thing about it is that people here in Canada aren't really the biggest people to go rush and restore cars because everything's expensive here. So a lot of these cars are still sitting out in these fields. You know, if you ever decide to make the trip up to Canada to go looking for a car, you know, just hit me up. I'll try to help you out wherever I can. I appreciate everybody coming by and checking out another Tales from the Bush from Canada, eh? And don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget, we also are selling the Southern Bush t-shirts. They probably look really good. Also got some hoodies. You can put it on pretty much anything, a coffee mug, whatever you like. But, you know, we're going to lead into a picture here with a hoodie. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you for watching another Tales from the Bush.